Have you ever found yourself wondering what he's really thinking? You replay conversations, analyze every message, and still feel unsure. The truth is, getting someone to coolly express their feelings isn't about pressure. It's about creating the right environment. If you want him to finally, emotional safety is the foundation of any honest connection, yet it's often overlooked. When someone feels judged, criticized, or misunderstood, their natural instinct is to protect themselves by shutting down or holding back. If you want him to open up about how he truly feels, you need to create an atmosphere where he doesn't feel like his words will be used against him later. This means paying attention not only to what you say, but how you react. Even small cues like eye rolling, interrupting, or dismissive responses can make him feel unsafe to share deeper emotions. Being present in conversations plays a huge role. When he speaks, give him your full attention instead of thinking about what to say next or jumping to conclusions. Let him finish his thoughts completely, even if there are pauses or moments of silence. Those pauses often mean he's thinking more deeply, and interrupting them can break his willingness to continue. Active listening, nodding, maintaining eye contact, and responding thoughtfully shows that you value what he's saying. It's also important to separate understanding from agreement. He needs to feel that even if you don't fully agree with his perspective, you're willing to hear it without turning it into an argument. When conversations immediately become debates, people start filtering their thoughts instead of expressing them honestly. A calm and open response like, "I see where you're coming from," can go a long way in making them feel accepted. Patience is another key element. Emotional safety isn't built in a single conversation. It develops over time through consistent behavior. If one day you're understanding and the next day you react harshly, it creates confusion and hesitation. Consistency reassures him that it's safe to be open with you repeatedly, not just occasionally. Trust grows when he sees that his vulnerability is respected. If he shares something personal and later finds it brought up in a negative way, it can shut him down completely. Respecting his boundaries and keeping private conversations private reinforces that his emotions are secure with you. Tone matters just as much as words. A gentle, calm tone invites openness, while an aggressive or impatient tone creates distance. Even difficult conversations can feel safe when they are approached with kindness and emotional control, making it easier for him to lower his guard and express what he truly feels in a genuine and unfiltered way. When you constantly chase someone for clarity, attention, or emotional validation, it often has the opposite effect of what you want. The more pressure you apply, the more he may feel the need to pull back. This doesn't mean your feelings are wrong or that wanting answers is too much, but the energy behind your actions plays a huge role in how he responds. Shifting from chasing to attracting is about changing your focus from control to self-possession, from anxiety to calm confidence. Chasing energy usually comes from uncertainty. It shows up in repeated texts, overthinking delays in replies, or trying to force emotional conversations at the wrong time. While these actions may come from care, they can unintentionally create emotional pressure. That pressure can make him feel like he is being cornered into giving answers before he is ready, which often leads to withdrawal rather than openness. Attraction, on the other hand, is rooted in emotional independence. It means you are still present and engaged, but not dependent on immediate responses or constant reassurance. When you focus on your own life goals and emotional stability, you naturally shift the dynamic. He starts to see you as someone who is grounded rather than reactive, someone who does not lose balance based on his behavior. This shift also changes how you communicate. Instead of sending messages out of anxiety, you respond from a place of calm. Instead of trying to extract emotions, you allow space for them to emerge naturally. Silence no longer feels threatening, and distance no longer feels like rejection. That emotional stability becomes attractive because it signals maturity and strength. People are often drawn to what feels emotionally secure and not easily shaken. When you stop over-pursuing and start embodying self-assurance, you create curiosity instead of pressure. He begins to wonder about your mindset, your peace, and your confidence, which often encourages him to lean in rather than step back. This approach does not mean becoming distant or uninterested. It means staying warm but not desperate, available but not overextended. It's about letting connection develop naturally instead of forcing it into existence through repeated effort that feels heavy or urgent. Over time, this energy shift can completely change how he engages with you, making him more open, more curious, and more willing to express what he truly feels. Open up. Clear communication is often misunderstood as saying more, when in reality it's about saying things in a way that can actually be received. When emotions are high, many people unintentionally communicate in a way that overwhelms the other person, even if their intentions are honest. If you want him to open up about his feelings, the way you express yourself matters just as much as what you're trying to express. Emotional communication tends to come out in moments of frustration, insecurity, or urgency. Phrases like, "you never tell me anything," or "why are you like this?" may feel justified in the moment, but they often trigger defensiveness. When someone feels accused, they are far less likely to respond with honesty. Instead, they start protecting themselves, choosing silence over vulnerability. Clear communication, on the other hand, is grounded in calm honesty. It allows you to express your feelings without placing blame. When you speak from your own experience instead of pointing fingers, it becomes easier for him to stay open rather than shut down. Saying something like, "I feel closer when we talk about our thoughts," creates space for connection without pressure. Timing also plays a major role. Not every moment is the right moment for deep conversations. Trying to force emotional discussions when someone is distracted, stressed, or emotionally unavailable often leads to shallow answers or avoidance. Choosing the right time shows emotional intelligence and increases the chances of a genuine response. Another important part of clear communication is emotional regulation. When your tone, pace, and energy stay steady, it signals safety. If your words are calm but your tone is tense or frustrated, the message gets lost in emotional noise. Stability in communication helps him focus on what you're saying rather than how intense it feels. Clarity also comes from simplicity. Over-explaining, repeating the same point in different ways, or layering too many emotions at once can confuse the message. A simple, direct statement often carries more impact than a long emotional explanation. It gives him room to process and respond instead of feeling overwhelmed. When communication is clear, calm, and emotionally balanced, it creates a space where honesty feels easier. He doesn't feel attacked or pressured, so he is more likely to respond with sincerity instead of avoidance. Over time, this kind of communication builds trust, and trust becomes the bridge that allows real feelings to finally come forward here. People often underestimate how important emotional space is when it comes to opening up feelings. Not every emotion is immediately clear, even to the person experiencing it. Many individuals need time to sit with their thoughts, process what they are feeling, and understand why they feel that way before they can express it in words. When that process is rushed, the result is often incomplete honesty or avoidance altogether. Giving them space does not mean disconnecting or becoming distant in a cold way. It means allowing emotions to unfold at their own pace without constant pressure for immediate answers. When someone feels they are being watched, questioned repeatedly, or expected to respond instantly, they may feel mentally crowded. That mental pressure can make it harder for them to think clearly about what they actually feel. Space creates clarity. When there is no pressure to respond right away, the mind naturally starts organizing thoughts more honestly. He may begin to reflect on conversations, recognize his own emotions, and gradually understand what he truly feels instead of reacting impulsively. This internal clarity is necessary before any meaningful external expression can happen. It's also important to understand that silence does not always mean disinterest. In many cases, silence is part of processing. He may be trying to figure things out internally rather than avoiding you. Misinterpreting this space as rejection can lead to unnecessary tension. which disrupts the very process that leads to emotional openness. When you respect his need for space, you also communicate confidence. It shows that you are not dependent on constant reassurance and that you trust the connection enough to allow it to breathe. This kind of energy reduces pressure and increases comfort, making it easier for him to eventually return with more clarity and willingness to share. Healthy space also improves the quality of communication when it does happen. Instead of rushed or defensive answers, you are more likely to receive thoughtful responses. He is not speaking to escape pressure, but speaking because he has reached a point of internal understanding. Emotional space is not distance from the relationship. It is space within the relationship that allows emotions to grow naturally. When used correctly, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for encouraging honesty, reflection, and genuine emotional expression without forcing or rushing the process. Leading by example is one of the most powerful ways to encourage emotional openness in any relationship. People rarely respond well to instructions about how they should feel, but they are deeply influenced by what they consistently see. If you want him to express his feelings honestly, you have to create a pattern that shows him what safe emotional expression looks like in action. When you openly share your thoughts and feelings in a calm, balanced way, you remove the fear around vulnerability. This doesn't mean oversharing or turning every conversation into an emotional release, but rather being honest about your internal experiences without making them heavy or overwhelming. When he sees you expressing yourself without fear of judgment or rejection, it slowly reshapes how he views emotional honesty. Many people grow up learning to hide emotions because they were taught that vulnerability leads to criticism, conflict, or misunderstanding. By showing emotional openness in a steady and controlled way, you challenge that belief without saying a word. You demonstrate that it is possible to be honest and still remain respected, connected, and understood. Consistency is key here. One emotional conversation is not enough to change someone's behavior. What matters is repeated experience over time. When he sees that your openness doesn't lead to drama, arguments, or emotional pressure, his nervous system begins to relax. That relaxation is what makes space for him to eventually do the same. It is also important to be mindful of how you react when he does open up, even slightly. If he shares something small and receives patience, understanding, and acceptance, it builds confidence in him to share more. But if vulnerability is met with criticism or frustration, even unintentionally, it can shut that door quickly. Your response becomes the blueprint for whether he feels safe to continue opening up. Leading by example also means showing emotional regulation during difficult moments. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, reflect, and respond with clarity. This shows him that emotions do not have to lead to chaos, but can be expressed in a grounded and mature way. Over time, your behavior becomes a silent guide. Without forcing him or demanding explanations, you create an environment where honesty feels natural instead of risky. He learns through experience that emotional expression does not weaken him or the connection, but actually strengthens it, making it more likely that he will eventually mirror the openness you consistently demonstrate. Knowing your worth is the point where everything shifts from emotional uncertainty to personal clarity. When you are deeply invested in someone's feelings, it's easy to forget that your value does not depend on their ability or willingness to express themselves. You can create the most understanding, patient, and emotionally safe environment, but you still cannot force someone to meet you with the same level of openness. Real strength begins when you accept that truth without losing your sense of self. Self-worth means recognizing that your emotional needs are valid. You are not asking for too much when you want honesty, consistency, and clarity. These are basic foundations of any meaningful connection. However, the difference lies in how you respond when those needs are not being met. If you start lowering your standards just to keep someone close, you slowly begin to lose emotional balance and self-respect without even realizing it. When you truly understand your value, you stop over-explaining your worth to someone who continuously leaves you guessing. You stop chasing clarity from someone who repeatedly avoids giving it. Instead, you begin to observe actions more than words and patterns more than promises. This shift helps you see the situation as it really is, not as you hope it could be. There is also a quiet confidence that comes with self-worth. It reflects in how you carry yourself, how you communicate, and how you respond to uncertainty. You no longer operate from fear of losing someone. You operate from the understanding that mutual effort is necessary for a healthy connection. That energy alone changes how others perceive and interact with you. At times, someone may simply not be ready to express what you need to hear. And while patience can be a form of care, staying in a place of emotional limbo for too long can begin to drain you. Knowing your worth allows you to set internal boundaries that protect your emotional well-being without needing to announce them loudly. Ultimately, self-worth is what keeps your emotional world stable, even when the other person is not clear. It allows you to stay open without becoming dependent and caring without becoming consumed. When you stand firmly in your value, you naturally attract relationships that match your level of emotional honesty and respect. Instead of constantly trying to extract it from someone who is not yet able to give it freely, are 6 powerful steps that can make all the difference. Final thoughts, getting him to finally express how he feels isn't about manipulation, it's about connection. When you create trust, communicate with intention, and stand strong in your value, the truth has space to come out naturally.